all you Greta's and Shutezcats. This is Chapter 4, Section 3. How does the Earth's life change over time? A lot of this is going to be familiar from freshman year, talking about evolution and natural selection. We're just going over it again and then talking about how, once again, this is going to help these organisms survive and move on. So the theory of evolution is demonstrated through the process of natural selection. So the thing is evolution, how it happens is through natural selection. This explains not only how life on Earth changes over time due to changes in the genes of the population, and it is the most widely accepted scientific theory that explains how life has changed on Earth. So understand that population evolution, individuals do not evolve, populations evolve. This occurs through gene mutation. So, okay, let's move me up a little bit. There we go. Gives individuals, all of these things are, gives individuals genetic traits and that both enhance their ability to survive and produce offspring. So step one is you have that random gene mutation that happens. Then you can have biological evolution. So this definition would be the process by which species genetically change over time, and this occurs within the genes of a population from generation to generation. So these are traits that you have since birth, traits that are in your genes, traits that are part of who you are. Natural selection is pretty much survival of the fittest. Individuals with traits that increase their survivability are more likely to produce offspring and pass on these traits. Examples of evolution would be things like fossils. So we can look at bones, teeth, shells, leaves, seeds, impressions, and see how things have changed over time. Evolution, number one, depends on genetic variability. So one, it needs to be something that's in your genes, but then you need to have a variety of genes. If everybody is the same, it doesn't matter. But when you have a variety of genetic makeup in a population, different heights, different speed abilities because of their muscles, different intelligence, different colors, different whatever. So these are, most of genetic variability results from mutations, and these are permanent changes to DNA sequence in your genes. They can result in heritable traits, so things you get from your mom and your dad. And then some are helpful, some are harmful, and some have no effect. Most mutations are going to have no effect, if you remember back to freshman year. Some can be helpful, maybe make you a little bit smarter, a little bit stronger, a little bit faster, or make you, if you're an animal, a color that blends in with stuff so you're not eaten as often. Some are harmful. Cancer is a fairly common example of a genetic mutation that is harmful. But most of these mutations have no effect. You don't even know that they're happening. So adaptation. The word is not adaptation, it is adaptation. This is any heritable trait that gives an individual some advantage over others in a population. So once again, if I'm a giraffe with a slightly longer neck, then I can reach the leaves on the trees better, and that is going to allow me to survive over people who can't reach. Genetic resistance is another thing that happens with natural selection. So especially with, say, bacteria. So the ability of one or more organisms in a population to tolerate chemicals designed to kill the population. So let's say we had 1,000 bacteria and we took an antibiotic and it wiped out all but 2. But those 2 bacteria had a genetic mutation that allowed them to not be killed by that antibiotic. Pretty good one. So they survive, they reproduce, they pass that trait on to their offspring, and so that is why we get antibiotic-resistant bacteria. This, like I just said, develops in bacteria and insect species because they rapidly produce a large number of offspring. Bugs and bug spray often work the same way. Bug populations will become immune to certain insecticides. So I tend to stick with the natural stuff because that doesn't tend to show a resistance as easily. So here we have normal bacterium, and then here's our resistant bacterium. The normal ones die, the resistant ones live. They're going to reproduce, and look, over time, most of the population now becomes that antibiotic-resistant bacteria, like MRSA. That is bad. Adaptation through natural selection does have its limits. So, limiting factors. Organisms can only adapt to change in environmental conditions if the necessary genetic traits are already present in a population's gene pool. So, I could get to school faster if I could fly, but can't just sprout wings because I want them. I'd have to have the genes already in me. And then even if a beneficial heritable trait is present in a population, the population's ability to adapt may be limited by its reproductive capacity. So bacteria can make new bacteria in 20 minutes. The most productive human can give us one more human 9 months from now. So that's definitely a slower process. Please do not try it. But that is a much slower process, and so we adapt much slower. And this is one of the issues with climate change is, yes, we can adapt to things, but the environment is changing so much so fast that it's not giving us and a lot of other animals out there the ability to properly adapt before it's changing again. Summers, if you haven't noticed, are much hotter than they were when you guys were kids. And you have survived. So that is the end of section 3 notes. Before I go, I want to let each and every one of you know that you are good enough, you are smart enough, and people do like you. And in case I don't see you, good afternoon, good evening, and good God, do your homework.